Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the 5-point guide to mastering the Acklay special mission. Is it really 5 points? I don't know. It was all Gary's idea. He thought it was a clever title to use, ladies and gentlemen. Today, we are entering phase 2 of Geonosians territory battle. Now, a couple weeks ago, I showed you my initial reactions going into the Acklay special mission, and back then, with unreworked Geonosians, it was basically impossible to complete this Acklay special mission. However, last Geonosians territory battles, I finally mastered this particular special mission, and although there aren't any crazy awards attached to it, you want to try to get as many guild mates as possible to master this so you can get as much guild event Mark II currency as possible. So what we're gonna do today, guys, is go over the strategy for mastering this event. What gear level did I use? What were the mods? What is the general strategy to be shooting for, so you and your guild can try to get some of those juicy rewards. So let's just pretend there's a 5-point plan to all this right now. So first off, relics has just been added to the game. There is 0 relics involved for taking on this mission. What you're seeing right now is basically exactly what I used. We had a Gear 13 Geonosian Brood Alpha and all basically entry-level Gear 12 Geonosians, which took on this event. However, I have seen people do it with all Gear 12 Geonosians. It is a very difficult event. I don't know if you can really do it with anything lower, but remember, in order to even participate in this event, you have to have at least 16,500 power. And if you remember way back when, that's basically either Gear 11 with the Zeta or Gear 12 across the board for the Geonosians. So you don't really have a lot of wiggle room to mess around. As we see right here, Poggle the Lesser with no Gear 12 plus pieces on or anything like that, his power is 17,600, so you don't have too much wiggle room. And to increase your power, you got to increase the gear levels, upgrade abilities, or put better mods on your character. So that's tip number 1. Make sure you meet the power threshold of 16,500 at a minimum. Now, in regards to mods, the Geonosian Brood Alpha really has the best mods out of all my Geonosians. I put some 6-step mods in them, and my goal was to try to give them some health as well as speed. As you see, we got some decent speed secondaries, as well as we threw some offense on. But the one thing you really want to shoot for is survivability for a lot of your characters, especially for Sunfac, Geonosian Brood Alpha, as well as Poggle the Lesser, because your Geonosians are sharing a health pool and protection pool. So the more health and protection your team has, the longer they are going to survive. And Acklay is a dangerous monster. So for the Geonosian Brood Alpha, I do recommend at least trying to mod him as fast as possible for your Geonosians, because you need to make sure he's getting in as much as possible to tame the Enraged on the Acklay. Moving on, Sunfac, as we see, as we're going forward, there's nothing too special with my mods, but going to Sunfac, I tried to give him as much health and protection as possible. Even gave him a protection arrow. We got him a protection triangle, protection cross, protection circle. I just try to find as much protection as possible, so that way your team can survive as long as possible. Moving on, let's take a look at Poggle the Lesser. Again, I kind of went for a Geonosian Brood Alpha type of thing, where I gave him some decent speed, but at the same time, trying to arm him with some health and protection. Survivability is going to be important. You will find damage dealers in a second, but you need to make sure the characters who aren't your biggest damage dealers, they're mostly fast, so they can keep throwing cleanses like Poggle the Lesser and offense up, as well as just increasing the total health pool. Got some health. Again, no 6-step mods. It's really only 6-step mods on my Geonosian Brood Alpha, so it's not a perfected Geonosian lineup. And then we have the Geo Spy, and this is where you're going to want to start playing with your damage output, just trying to find the critical damage or offense at the minimum. I even see some people throw an offense arrow on the right here, which is perfectly fine. I tried to give him some critical damage right here, put critical damage or offense right here. Look, I did this with the 4-dot mod. So again, you don't need god tier mods, but trying to at least making sure you apply the correct mods to the right character is the minimum, and critical damage and critical chance, or offense and critical chance, is the way to go, and try to load them up with as much critical damage and offense as possible. Putting offense on here would be ideal, but I did not have any more left over to throw at him. And as we see, not a fast character. Damage dealers, because you want Geonosian Spy to be assisting as much as possible. And lastly, the Geonosian Soldier, kind of like the Geonosian Spy. This is one of your biggest damage dealers you're gonna want to have. So I went for critical damage and critical chance. Gave him some speed, but critical damage here is gonna be important, or offense. Offense right here is very helpful, and then we have, again, protection as well as that. What I do recommend, if you don't have 6-step mods, you probably just want to go with the protection mods, because you get much more compared to a non-6 mod health mod. If you ever need to research something in terms of a mechanic for Geonosians Territory Battle, make sure you click on details, because you learn everything about the units and the bonuses that you're getting. And when you scroll down, you'll find everything you need to know about the Acklay. Now, I'm not going to read this to you word by word, but what I do want to read are mostly the unique abilities. The Acklay is going to deal less damage for each Jedi present. You're going to have a maximum of 4 Jedi on the field at a given time. And with this in mind, you don't really want to knock out these Jedi. You kind of want them sitting around, but you have to make sure you control them. And mainly the AoE, or in more layman terms, the mass damage effects that some of the Jedi have. So you want to try to keep the Jedi presently, but sometimes you're going to have to knock out Jedi just because of how the cookie's going to crumble. But keep in mind, more Jedi in the field, less damage the Acklay is going to do. And especially when the Acklay does its big AoE attack, you want to make sure you have as many Jedi in the field as possible. Also, the Acklay is going to get 5% turn meter every single time it is being attacked. And this is so crucial, because you need to make sure that the Geonosian Brood Alpha's Beast Warden ability, which is meant to control the enraged on the Acklay, you need to make sure it times out well when the Acklay becomes enraged. So if you notice that the Acklay is going to become enraged soon, and you have 2 more turns before you can take off that enrage with your Geonosian Brood Alpha, start hitting other Jedi. And that's what I mean. You might have to take out some Jedi once in a while, because if you keep hitting the Acklay, it's going to be so fast, and you won't be able to time your Beast Warden capabilities to slow down and calm down the Acklay. So let's hop into battle now and show you how it went. This is all recorded footage that I recorded way back when, so it's not going to be me doing it live at the very moment. The first thing you need to make sure you do, it's probably obvious for most, but I just want to make sure I put it out there in case it isn't. You need to make sure you use the Beast Warden ability right away with the Geonosian Brood Alpha. Take off that enrage that the Acklay automatically starts with at the beginning of the battle. Now, second thing to keep in mind, don't just hit that Beast Warden ability just yet. Take a look at your environment. You're going to have 2 Jedi on both sides of the Acklay. They're your friend, but at the same time, they're going to be your foe. And the main foes to look out for are the ones with the AoE capabilities, the mass damage capabilities. And there's 2 or 3 of them. You have the Jedi Sentinel, you have the Jedi Guardian, I believe, the guy that looks like Jolie Fishto, the fish-looking Jedi, and sometimes Kit Fisto has an AoE as well. So what you're going to want to do is, again, keep in mind, you don't want to take these guys out. They're helping you control this party. But what you're going to want to do is, at the beginning, what I prefer, especially if you see a Jedi Sentinel, because those hide under stealth when you're hitting them, so they're a bit elusive, target one of the Jedi, use Beast Warden, and at the minimum, try ability blocking these massive AoE damage Jedi, so that way they're not using AoEs on your own team. So that's why Poggle the Lesser is going to be so important, because Poggle the Lesser's basic applies ability blocks. So that means every time a Geonosian's taking a turn, Poggle the Lesser can come in and swipe the Jedi, put ability block, and control them. And that means you can relax and know they're not going to hurt you with their massive AoE abilities. The reason why I point this out is because AoE abilities, both in this game mode as well as just in general for Galaxy of Heroes, massive AoE damage is the Achilles heel for the Genos. They cannot sustain a lot of AoE damage. And between the Acklay and the couple of Jedi, you're going to get wiped out way too quickly. So this is going to be the most random factor, because the Jedi you see every time you enter, it's going to be different. You might only have 1 AoE Jedi, maybe none, maybe all 4 might be AoE Jedi. Whatever the case may be, ability block as many of them as fast as you possibly can. Moving forward, what you're going to want to do once you finally have the Jedi that are AoE attackers under control, start going ahead and attack the Acklay. And the good thing is, because of Sun Fac, you're going to get a lot of constant buff to spell. So if someone happens to taunt, you can rip off the taunt. If the Acklay gets bonus protection, you can rip it off. So slowly but surely, keep popping hits on the Acklay. And usually I take a break once I see that the Jedi have lost their ability block and they're potentially going to use an AoE. Go back, swipe an ability block, and come back at the Acklay. It's kind of this back and forth thing. And really, the thing that you really have to keep in mind, let's say this is tip number 5 right here, is pay attention to the turn meter on the Acklay. Because if you look in the top right hand corner, you see the cooldowns left for the Acklay, and at the very end of them, that's the one you got to be most careful about, because that is the enraged capability. And once the Acklay becomes enraged, you're going to be done for if you can't control him. So that's why if you see he's about to be enraged and your Geonosian Brood Alpha isn't quite ready to use Beast Warden, time it out. Don't hit the Acklay. Start hitting other Jedi. Take out a Jedi if you have to, but don't keep hitting the Acklay and keep feeding him turn meter, or else he's going to become enraged and you won't be able to clear away that enrage. And if he uses a big AoE ability, you're done, boy. Some other tips to throw out there. Sun Fac has a blind ability, and I love trying to time this out, where if you can try to throw a blind on the Acklay right before he does his big AoE capability, that is the best thing you can possibly do, because being able to survive that big stomp from the Acklay is going to ensure the match is going to go very well in your favor. So blind the Acklay when you can and try to time it out when he's about to use his AoE, or if the Acklay became enraged and you don't think you can make it in time, throw a blind really quickly so at least you can avoid one of the hits from the Acklay and buy your Genos and Brood Alpha time. Again, this whole thing is about buying the Genos and Brood Alpha as much time as possible to control the Acklay, and the whole process in total took about 7 minutes, and that was me kind of reading the ability. So if you do it right, it is kind of a long-winded battle. It's going to take you about 5 to 10 minutes to complete this mission. Don't rush it. Take your time. Make sure you have Geonosian, the Geonosian soldier, as well as Poggle the Lesser. Constantly call in the Geonosian spy to assist, because if you mod him right, he should do some very good damage, especially on Silent Strike. You can instantly wipe out a Jedi or do a big hit on the Acklay. Geonosian soldier, Geonosian spy are going to be your 2 biggest damage dealers, and that's why you want to keep having them assist off one another whenever possible. And the one ability you don't want to be spamming whenever is going to be the conscription ability. The conscription ability is probably the second most important ability in your arsenal for the Geonosians. Now, this is the ability that'll constantly help revive your Geonosian brute, your taunting tank, and it's going to be the one that constantly replenishes your health and protection pool. And if you see your Geonosians, they're full on health and protection, don't use conscription, because there is a possibility that they're going to get smashed with an AoE either from the Jedi or the Acklay, and you're going to be kicking yourself for using conscription too early. So if you see that your Geonosians are in a good spot with health and protection, don't use conscription. Just save it and keep it on, keep it in your arsenal for later use. And that was really the main strategy looking into this, making sure your Geonosians are modded to a good extent. You got the general scheme going, making sure you understand the Acklay's ability going in, and making sure you ability block as many of the AoE Jedi as possible, keeping them under control. Using Spy and the Soldier to your advantage to put the big punches into the Acklay, and timing out the Beast Warden capability. I think honestly that 5th point is going to be your most important point, because if you're not paying attention, you're going to have the Acklay outrun you, because that guy will run away from you with all that bonus Terminator he is generating. So hopefully this overview on knocking out this mission will be helpful. It's too bad the rewards aren't as juicy compared to the Watton Boar shards later on, but who knows, maybe they'll put something better there down the road. But at the minimum, more currency the better, so you can chase after the Negotiator and get all the juicy gear that we're all shooting after. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully this short guide was helpful so you can master this special mission, and at the same time you're kind of learning a bit about the Geonosians. Like if you did enjoy, comment down below your thoughts, and be sure to subscribe so you're not missing a thing, and I'll talk to all of you lovely people in the next video. Peace out, everyone.
Party Richter, Party Richter. Get down, 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 down. Party Richter, Party Richter. Son of a bitch. Party Richter, Party Richter. Get down, down, down.